I am going to demonstrate how to make the window danglers today. So we are going to cut glass, maybe, cut glass, grind glass, foil glass, and solder glass to get to this point today. If that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So, cutting, again, I make it look easy because I've been doing it for so long. So practice is better. I'm gonna decide on my shape. Let's see. I don't know what I want to do. We'll go like here. Like that. And then I can just pop it. If you need, let me grab some frozen fire. If you need you can always do a little bit of chipping off if you need to as well. Remember, the grazing pliers go with the teeth at the top like an alligator. And then it's just a matter of kind of chipping and grinding. You can also use these to break smaller pieces if you had a different shape that you wanted. So from here, the edges, you can see the edges. See how they're shiny?
Oh, wait, hold on. There you go.
And see how they're shiny? We have to grind them to get them dull. So, sit and grind so I can talk and grind and not splatter my face. We'll see. There's water in here. You got to fill up to about the bottom of the grid. And then I'm just going to turn on the grinder, lay this flat, and then I use my fingers to kind of push it against there.
Oh yeah, maybe I'll put it.
Okay. You can kind of see it taking it off. And I'll just go the whole way around like that. And when we do projects later where it has to be a specific size and shape, you're going to want to cut as close to that size and shape as you can, because otherwise this part takes forever. But you can use it to do a little bit of shaping. Like I think I might bring in this indent just a little bit. And smooth it out so it's a little bit more symmetrical. But the idea of this is to... Oh, I should have stopped halfway between. Oh well. You can, as it starts to dry, you can see that it's not shiny anymore. Mm-hmm. It's kind of rough and turns white if it dries. Mm-hmm. And it's not shiny. So if I do this, you know, it doesn't have that same shine that it had before. There's sort of a little bit of shine here on the end. I don't know if you can see that. So I think I might take off that. I mean, having a little bit of shine isn't a huge deal, but on a corner, that kind of worries me. So without it being ground, the foil doesn't stick right because the foil's sticky. So this has got to be pretty dry. So I can put foil on it. Typically I would say wait a few minutes, but we'll just do it. When I do this, the copper foil is on here so the sticky side is up. You can technically put it in this groove and it will sort of center it for you, but it doesn't quite center it, and I prefer it centered, especially if you have anything that's clear. You want it definitely centered on both sides, because otherwise you can see the gold or the copper color and it looks odd. So one thing I suggest, if you're going to put two pieces together, I suggest starting and stopping on one of the sides that's going to go together. But either way, I still start in the middle of a side instead of like on a corner. That way it overlaps itself. So I'm just gonna lay it on here, and then I sort of look down the chute. I'm gonna press this down and turn it for you. So like I look straight down it so that I can see that it's centered. and I'm not gonna be able to see from there, so turn it back to me. But
There you go.
you basically center it, and then you press it. Now I need scissors. Alright. I'm gonna overlap, but not clear to the corner because I don't want it on the corner. And I typically bevel it just a little bit until the kids used it last because it's not beveled. And then I try to match it up as best as I can on the top. And it tweaked a little bit. It does sort of pull up, or you can just trim it. I got an X-Acto in there. The rest is sort of like if you ever wrap a present. You do the ends of your present, and when you do the ends of your present, you push in the corners first. So I'm going to push in the corner and kind of lay it down, push in the other corner, and just kind of press it down. Pushing in the corners so that that's flat, and you kind of get these little wings happening here. And I'll do the same thing over here. And then make sure that when I'm down here that I actually fold it over. I don't like smoosh it, because otherwise it just becomes a big wrinkledy goo mess thing, and that's no good. And it does sort of come over the edge, but that's where I'm going to put my hook, so it doesn't matter. So I'm like that. And then if you have an inside curve, sometimes it'll rip. I'm not sure if this one, especially if it's a deep one, it'll rip. If it's not real deep, it looks like this one is not going to rip, so we're in luck. If it does rip, then you just take a little piece and then you put it on there and cut it off with the X-Acto, and when you solder it, you'll never know. Okay, so it's all on there, but it's not on there well. Okay, so the next thing you have to do is use a burnishing tool, and I always burnish with my edges first, because then if there's any inconsistencies, it'll push it over the edge and you won't get a bubble. You definitely want to stick to the edges. So I'm going to burnish the edges, and you can see the difference between this side and the side I burnished. You can kind of it looks scraped kind of. Burnish the edges. And then I'll do the same thing on the tops and the bottoms, and I got to look at my corners so that I make sure I don't mess up my corners that I tried to get down so nice and flat. So I usually try to make sure I'm going with it instead of against it, because it'll mush it. Alright, she's on there, and she should be on there good. If you have a little weird inconsistency at all, which it's the teeny tiniest thing that you probably don't see with that, but I'm going to trim it off right here because I can sort of see it and it annoys me. But if you ever, or if you have to, like, you know, add an extra piece or whatever, like I said, if it would have ripped out, you know, you could add a piece here and then just trim it off. It's no biggie. So just know the X-Acto is good for that as well. So that's my piece. At this point I need to decide which is my front, this or this. I think I'm going to go with the flat side. I don't know if you can see that. One side is a little flatter and shinier than the other side. So I think, and usually I just look at the color, whatever. And the one I did earlier, I actually chose the textured side because I liked the streaks in it. And the way I know that is because of the way I had it laying when I go over here to solder. I had it laying with the right side up. So, all right, off to solder. Here we go. Try to get down blue. All right. So, the deal with this is it's got to be clean. In order to make it clean, we're going to use flux. I have a bigger thing of this, but I dump it in the little deal. We'll take off the lid, and we're going to take the flux. The flux gets the oils and everything off of the copper. So I'm going to kind of push some on the side and some on the top as I go. It doesn't need a ton. Quite frankly, there's probably enough on here from when the kids did it that I don't need it on the bottom at this point, but I'll probably flip it and put a little bit extra on. From here, This is wet, so I can kind of wipe it off and get like, because you'll see like smoky residue. This is the solder that we typically use, but this and this is all solder that was left like all over the place last year when we finished. So I just put it in a container and I've been using that with the kids. So we are going to melt it and pick a little bit up on here. And then it does get warm, but it doesn't get like super crazy hot unless you have a little small piece. And I was telling the kids earlier that basically if you think about the bevel of this, it's warm this way, but not this way. So if you want it to, I'll spin it around so you can see. I'm gonna pull towards me so that way it warms it as I get to it. Right? And if there's a spot it doesn't go on very well, throw a little extra flux on there. And then I'm gonna flip it over. It's a little warm, but not crazy warm. Like I said, I think there's enough flux on the tile. I'll just smear it around a little.
So does it like dry instantly?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know, right? So that's a lot. I don't need that much on there. Well, whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna go across here. Across here. Spin it. It does get warm, especially where you just did it. And then here. So now I've got all my tops and my bottom done. So now I'm gonna flip it.
Oh,
dang it.
Oh,
You just wave your arm right there. Go to the left a little. Right there.
okay, we're back. A little excitement.
I was afraid it was gonna do that. Okay. Well, it had time to cool off, so I can pick it up now. So when I tell kids, I've already got flux on the sides, but I say if you're gonna hold it, because you can hold it with pliers too, but if you're gonna hold it, make sure that you're working away from your finger so it doesn't drip, because sometimes there's extra. And like that's what these are, is where it like dripped off extra because they had too much on their thing. So I'm gonna put a little bit on here. And then I'm gonna pull down so that it drips. If it was gonna drip, it would drip right here. So I don't wanna ever have my fingers under it.
So is that like metal then?
Yeah.
It's melted? That's sick. Hope they appreciate my commentary.
Yeah, I'm sure they can. All right, so see how it's sort of balled on there? Like it can drip off, which is why I said keep your fingers back. I had a girl earlier that she had a flat one and she was doing it right here. And I'm like, oh, you're freaking me out. I'm like, please stop that. So that's the basic of that. Then we got to put our hook on. And I said I was going to do that side up. I'm going to put a hook on top and I'm going to put a hook in the middle at the bottom, I think. I usually have smaller ones of these, but I haven't brought them from home yet because I took all my stuff home. So I've got big fat ones here that was from a different project. You never do this unless you're doing this part. Okay? Typically, this is a ring. Typically, you don't pull because it weakens the joint. But since we're going to go over the tip, we want to pull. Typically, what you do is a twist, which is what this looks like, is a twist. You typically twist because it actually strengthens. When you twist like this, it strengthens it. So you don't pull like this, it warps it and it weakens it. So when we actually put the beads on, we'll do it like this, but for this part, we'll pull. So I'm gonna put one there.
It's so pretty.
Look with my old person eyes, find the middle. And like I said, typically you would twist like this, but we're not gonna do that, we're gonna pull. So I want it a little bit flat so it fits here. All right, still gotta put flux on because these got oils and stuff as well. So I'm gonna dab it in here. I'm gonna dab it here so that it's on the new metal. And then I gotta get where I can see. All right, so I'm gonna pick up this piece. You sort of need a little bit extra on here now because you're gonna kind of come in here and you're gonna touch it and kind of leave it. Now, do you see right here where it sort of, like you can see the flux right here in the corner? That's what we want. So I'm gonna put a little extra on and I'm gonna do the other side. The angle right here is kind of the tricky part. Let me pick it up and show you. See that angle I'm talking about? That's what I'm talking about, okay? Because then you know you got it on there really well. So I'm going to shove it back in here. I'm going to do something similar at the bottom. And you basically just hold it there for a sec until it fills itself in. The rest of the time, you know, you're just kind of moving, but on this, you want it to kind of fill in. See, it kind of pause. That's sort of a Christmas tree going on here. See how it sort of just fills in, and then you don't have any more gaps. At that point, it's basically done and ready to bead, except for cleaning it off. So really all we do is throw on a little droplet, smear it around. I got kind of a funny spot here that I could flatten out if I want, and I might. See how it's kind of bubbled right here? So I could just go over there and touch it with the thing and it'll just smooth it back out. So otherwise, that's it.